Talk Radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day. Na, 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 na.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me. Oh. My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, it's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
And supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
You are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Nah, I knew that was going to be
But I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. But I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome, your 222. Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, TV Live, Rumble, Podchaser, and more. And why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness. So there's no gossip on this show, no scandal, no K words, no Kanye talk at all, formerly or now. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests. If you missed any of my past show, we had a great Veterans Day guest. We just had a great Native American Heritage Month guest. So there's a wide variety. If you free subscribe on my YouTube channel, which is fast approaching the 2,000 milestone and 302,000 views, then you'll just be here at Happy Central. And we're so delighted today. It's a very special day. You'll see there's a good-looking guy in my studio, and he is my absolute newest co-host for Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa. And Frank, my sound engineer, is going to look into why I'm hearing that gerbil again. And I think, James, do you have your earbuds? That might be the reason. I'm going to also put mine in to see if that helps.
I'll have to go fetch them.
Let me try mine first. Cashew Gallery, if you're hearing the gerbil, could you let me know? And Cashew Gallery are those people who are streaming in right now live to this thing called my virtual studio, my loving room. Let me just do this real quickly because that gerbil is.
Are you still hearing it, Dr. Marissa?
I'm sorry?
Are you still hearing it, Dr. Marissa?
Am I hearing it?
The gerbil, so to speak.
No. Did you do something different?
I turned down the volume on my phone so that there'd be less echo or reverb. Does that help you?
Yes. You can't have it playing on another thing at the same time.
No, yes, it's not. It's just on one
Okay,
device, but I turned down my volume so that way you don't hear as much echo, so to speak.
Awesome,
so I think I was the culprit, leave it to the new guy to mess things up on day one, right?
50 lashes with a wet noodle.
Oh,
Just
boy.
Kidding.
It's getting
kidding.
late early around here.
What a way to start. No, I'm kidding. Here we go. James Hawthorn is an actor, host, film festival co-founder, and personal trainer. In other words, a true Angeleno. He dates regularly and relationships. Yes, he verbed that word. His East Coast roots are now intertwined with 13 years of LA living for a unique perspective on all things dating and relationships. Please welcome to my studio, James Hawthorn.
I love that intro. Thank you so much, Dr. Marissa.
You're welcome. Just a side thing, that let's get ready to rumble. I actually dated him.
You dated Michael Buffer?
I did. Back in the day when I was young and hot and living on the East Coast doing my dissertation. I met him in Atlantic City at an event. So we rumbled.
Well, that's one way to put it. This is the new yada yada from Seinfeld, it sounds like. What I want to know, I hope that when you went out to dinner, he didn't ask for the check in the same way that he introduces a boxing match.
No, but there were anyways, we're not going to get that deep this quickly.
You open that can of worms, and I'm diving in. What can I tell you?
And this is why James is my new co-host. I'm so delighted that I was able to. It's an interesting story, but before we do that, let's jump into the first blissipline that I do first thing every show, which is breakfast with my co-host or guest and taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. Those of you in the stream know the drill. 8 specific things that you're grateful for that are outside of yourself. And then the bottom of the bun is 8 things that you appreciate about yourself, which is inside, right? And the reason why we do this is there's plenty of places you can tune in and hear what's going on. And usually if it bleeds, it leads, and all the bad news. I want to balance the bad news out with good news. And the best way I can think of doing that is using gratitude. It's the spoonful of gratitude that makes life so sweet and wonderful. So we're going to introduce James's new role here as co-host on Straight Talk. And I know the cashews are happy. We already got a finger on you after your introduction. Someone gave us the finger, not that one. This one.
Good.
He's got to get used to my sense of humor. For sure.
You could ever be so
But,
short
sarcasm is another service that I offer. All right, here we go. So we have a bi-coastal co-host. Yes, we do. James and I will laugh about that later.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy.
Troy is grateful for the new co-host. Wonderful. And he's grateful for his wife's health. She's on the mend after we film this. I had heard PJ had mentioned that. And that's Netter, who I've gotten to know through the Cashew Gallery. So I'm grateful as well. So that's 2. I'm grateful for my new co-host. James is grateful for.
I'm grateful for, I'm really looking forward to seeing my mom and dad for the holidays, being that they're still on the East Coast. Spending time with them is just so precious. And, it's such a simple thing. But whenever I go back East, I make sure that I see both of them. They're divorced. But, so I always extend my trip to make sure I get to spend quality time with both, because there's nothing like it. And we have our holiday traditions that we do together. And, it's very grounding, and it's that nurturing feeling in a world that sometimes feels a little bit shaky. So that's what I'm grateful for, the opportunity to do that and give them a big hug.
Awesome. What are their names?
Gary and Barbara.
Gary and Barbara, peace in, peace out. I do believe, and I'm grateful that I actually think I met them. So
you did. That's right, Dr. Marissa. You met both of them. And that's a funny story about love and relationships. That was the first time I got them together in a room together at my film festival in close to 20 years. And they were incredibly civil and loving towards one another. And I was like, everything that led to the separation was dissolved in a moment around unity and love and, celebrating this thing that I was trying to do in the artistic world. And it was so special. I broke down in tears of joy when they gave each other a big hug, and first time in 20 years they were together in the same room. And that to me is all the proof you need that there's always a chance and opportunity for healing. And forgiveness.
Wow. That's a backstory I did not know. I had the perception that you had strong, not saying that they're not strong, but that was not the picture I got. It was this beautiful venue. And one of the funny stories about how James and I reconnected is I've actually known James for at least 10 years, I want to say. When was the first Flicks for Change?
The first one that I think you attended, thanks to our dear friend Tracy Saunders, was probably, I want to say 2017.
So not 10
So it's been about
years.
6 years.
Oh, yeah, 6 years. Okay. So 6 years ago, I'm on the red carpet of this film festival, thanks to Tracy, who knew me from other red carpets. And she says, you've got to come. support my friends. They're doing this Flicks for Change, socially conscious films and movies that are in a film festival. It was in a cool place downtown. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I went and I was just blown away. One, because I think we had some great, was it the Temptations that year? The Platters? Or
the former singers of the Temptations, Platters, and Drifters performed in the middle of the festival, which was very needed because being a socially conscious film festival, some of the topics are heavy. So giving people a chance to get up, dance, and remember some great tunes from the past, I think it was necessary to bring some levity to a very important but yet heavy at times program.
Right, and your partner in crime, non-crime, it was actually someone I had. It doesn't matter. I met him either there or before that because he was a friend of Frank Shankwitz, who's a friend of mine who is on the other side in heaven now.
Yeah.
But he is the man who co-founded with his wife, Kitty, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So he became Frank in the movie Wishman, put on by my friend, Greg Reed, who is responsible for getting me on stage all the time to speak at his Secret Knock incredible event every year. So it just like, and then y'all know my co-host on Fridays, Alon Carter, who y'all love, and she is coming back tomorrow. She said, and by the way, big prayers. I know Cashew Gallery, you all love Alon. Her mom, remember, she had some issues and they did a biopsy and it has turned out to be cancer. So we're just taking a deep breath in right now and we're releasing healing, comfort, peace, joy, and clarity to the doctors who are doing the treatment plan. The good news is they caught it super early. But that's what Alon's been having an opportunity to be of service to her mom. But she is going to come on tomorrow. Anybody who's local, come support Grace, whose son, who's the reason why I have an interview backstage with the Temptations, because he's the grandson. Alon is the daughter of Otis Williams. I don't know if you knew that, James, who is the founder, 81, still performing.
That's amazing. You think about them starting in the early 60s, and that's just fantastic. You know, everyone talks about the Rolling Stones, but don't forget about the mighty Temptations. That's what I say.
Oh, I think the Temptations are more epic and legendary than the Rolling Stones. Sorry. I actually met Mr. Lips in Studio 54 in New York and did some recreational activities with him when I was modeling in New York. Just
wow.
I know. Hey, I'm ageless. I am ageless, hashtag. But anyway, I can't believe all these things that are coming out today.
You know, you and I are going to have a sidebar. I want some of these stories that might not be safe for air because I bet you got some good ones, Doc.
Oh man, it is definitely interesting. I don't even want to look at the comments that are coming out in the Cashew Gallery because I'll get distracted. So finishing off breakfast. I aspire to be as cool as you
one day. I aspire to be as cool as you. That's all I can say.
You are already as cool. Hey, that film festival, Socially Conscious Films, is where I met James. Anyways, Alon, I met Alon through her son Trace, who's performing on Friday night at the Mint at 10:45. If you're free, meet me there. Get your friends. He's amazing. He's the newest. I'm one of the support aunties that really, he's going places. And
that is this Friday, correct?
That is this Friday at the Mint.
For anybody listening in the LA area, I got to say it's just a wonderful venue to see live music. So I highly encourage you, if you don't have Friday plans, or if your Friday plans are a little on the lame side, go to the Mint and upgrade, level up, and bring a date. I have to endorse that wholeheartedly. So
there we go. You're making points here, James. Definitely making points. So anyways, Trace's relatively newest talent agent, or not new, but anyways, Pierre, who's been on the show, who James not only knows Pierre, but Pierre also represents James. So needless to say, I was kind of stunned. I was at an event that highlighted Trace being his supportive auntie, and who is there but James? At the after party, we were having some food, and I'm like, and I hear this, Dr. Marissa, and I'm like, what? And it turns out it's James. I'm like, what are you doing here? And so the hat for the film festival's off, and this new hat that I didn't even know, actor, fitness guru, all of this other stuff about James. And I'm like, wow. So we've been talking, just, like to come on the show, happy to have you, blah, blah, blah. And then when my sound engineer started falling asleep on me, who was my co-host.
Frank, come on, buddy.
Because he's going to be. Frank is amazing. He has his own DJ company, and he works full time on that. And he's a sound engineer at KCA, full time on that. And so, needless to say, he couldn't say no when I asked him to be my co-host when Sam had to also refocus on other stuff he was doing. And I was, just all of a sudden I went, oh my God, James would be a perfect co-host for so many reasons. And so there's the story. I'm grateful. That's a very long gratitude, but I did want to use the sandwich as a way to introduce and how James is my newest co-host. So that's all the gratitudes on top. Let's go to the bottom of the bun, because James likes it on the bottom. And I'm glad you're laughing.
50 lashes with a wet noodle. That's how we started today. So, yep, just lashes right on the bottom. No, I'm equally grateful and honored to be here, Dr. Marissa. Thank you so much for considering me. And it's so fun to come on here and have a good time with you, and hopefully make some people happy and chat about pertinent topics that may help us all be better in our dating and relationship life. So,
Absolutely. So let's go to the bottom of the bun. Is what do you like about yourself? And just as a way of introduction, James, because you haven't heard this part, the reason why I want to talk about this is because a lot of us don't have a very strong muscle when it comes to self-approval, self-love, self-care. And because of all the focus on mental health, Mental Health Matters Mondays is a new series that I started in response to coming out of the pandemic and people having some difficulty at coming out of isolation, people feeling the effects of PTSD, what I call post-pandemic stress disorder.
Yeah.
I wanted us to take responsibility for ourselves, because often we look for love or approval or likes, literally now with social media, in all the wrong places. So if we can be better at soothing ourselves, loving ourselves, caring for ourselves, I promise that is one of the hallmarks of good mental health. And that's why we do it. So what do I like about myself? My ability to teach incessantly, sometimes more than people want to hear, but oh well, 88% of the time it is appreciated. So I appreciate that about myself. What do you like about yourself, James?
I will answer that, but I am so glad you brought up this topic, because I couldn't agree more with it. And I'll share a little personal anecdote so that people get to know me a little bit better. But it's so true. And sometimes this idea of self-love comes in a lot of different forms. I mean, sometimes it's not so much affirming yourself as it is quieting that critical voice. And, during the pandemic, I thought this is a great opportunity to do some talk. I'm a big proponent of talk therapy, just simply because for those of you who haven't tried it or don't really know what it's about, I mean, the simplest way to put it is it's taking all your baggage from the subconscious having a trained professional help kind of bring it up. And once what's like under the surface becomes clear, it can no longer have like this hold on you. And one of my biggest takeaways from opening up the hood and looking at the engine for the first time in a long time was he's like, you have a really critical superego, meaning that judging moral voice. And, to go back to the film festival idea, I had this idea that I had to do all this stuff for other people to be like worthwhile or decent. And he's like, James, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're good. Like just cause no harm. And I said, so you mean it's enough to just be a personal trainer? He's like, yeah, you're helping people be happy and healthy, and that's got to be enough. So for those of you that are at home thinking that you need to do more or you're not enough, if you're not causing any harm, you're in the winner's circle. And if you're, treating people well in your day-to-day life, even if you sell widgets, you're doing good. So I just want to give people permission and grace to say, you know what, you're doing all right. So for me, I hope I communicated that clearly, because one thing that I value about myself is the ability to take concepts or ideas and communicate them and listen to people in a deep way and really try to achieve a deep level of understanding in communication. I'm really grateful for the ability to do that. It's served me well, and it's allowed me to have some wonderful friendships, connections with family, and still figuring out the relationship thing, but I've had some really interesting dates using that skill set. So I would say I'm grateful for that.
Fantastic. And you've got some love in the cashew gallery, my version of the peanut gallery, obviously, in case you didn't get that, from Troy and Orville Nation. Troy is not a co-host. He's a show host himself. He's on Fridays on YouTube channel. If you want to check him out, I'm going to be his guest on December the 1st. He was a stand-in co-host, James, last week while you were busy. I know that you needed a week, so he did a great job. The reason why he is not my co-host is because he does not qualify. He is in a very stable, loving relationship.
Well, good for you, Troy. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much, Troy, for helping Dr. Marissa out. That's awesome.
I really wanted to have a co-host who was as screwed up in relationships as I was. Sorry, James. I'm sure you're not screwed up, but I so tease. I wanted someone who was single. That was just a weird, that doesn't mean you can't get into a relationship if you're my co-host, but there is something really fun about having two single, I'm semi-attractive. James has got the hot thing. He's got that, my favorite baby butt chin.
I stole it from John Travolta. Me and him have a deal. Hey, I gotta drop a little East Coast. I gotta drop a little East Coast humor on you regarding I came up with a theory of relationships, and it's that joyful East Coast cynicism, and that, hey, I'm screwed up, you're screwed up. The key is you got to find someone that's your kind of screwed up, meaning that your screwed up doesn't make their screwed up any worse, and their screwed up doesn't make your screwed up any worse. And in the meantime, you're both amused by the ways in which you're screwed up and can laugh about it. So that's my advice for successful relationships. Stop trying to be perfect. It ain't going to happen. Don't expect them to be perfect. Ain't going to happen. Find someone that's your kind of screwed up and just laugh about it along the way, and give grace to the people that you're hanging out with,
This is you heard it here first. This is James Hawthorn's screwed up model of relationships to balance out my pregnancy model of relationships, which we will at some point talk about, James. I will introduce that one. He appreciates his quick typing skills, and I'm going to end it because we're already halfway through the show and we haven't even covered our topic yet. Not that I'm judging or criticizing, but we do want to address this because I did get a lot of likes on the topic at hand. So I will close the button with I appreciate my ability to laugh out loud constantly, often, which is my definition of success. Ralph Waldo Emerson's to laugh often and much. That is the secret of life and the secret of success. So that is it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and my new Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa. And your name?
James Hawthorn. Sorry, Dr. Marissa. I was a little slow
That's
on the
okay.
update.
You're getting used to it.
Apparently,
It's
I need a
okay.
bigger
Try
cup
to
of
get it
coffee.
the first time right there. Thanks for having breakfast with us. We hope that you continue this discipline for the next 28 consecutive days. I promise if you do, you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. Alrighty, topic at hand. Holiday Reds instead of holiday blues. Holiday Reds, how do you deal with the dipwads, the family members who really don't like the insignificant other, the significant other that you are bringing home for the holidays? That is the topic at hand. James picked the topic, so I'm going to let you start with the first volley.
Sounds good.
And you know, we don't go to solution right away. So what I like to do on my show is put the moose on the table, especially during Straight Talk, which is my Canadian version of Elephant in the Room, because I was born in Canada, and talk about the reality of this particular opportunity. So I'll start with my younger daughter. She's going to kill me. They never listen to the show. The only time my kids are interested, there's only two guests that I've ever, or people I've interviewed that they were interested in. One was Tony Hawk, and the other was YG. Other than that, every fabulous 1064 show, they don't care. So they're not listening. So my younger one is dating someone that, in her words, I would be embarrassed to introduce him to you. Those are her words. Has not, break up, get together. And now Thanksgiving, they invited me up to San Francisco to have Thanksgiving with them. I'm doing the whole meal, turkey and the whole thing. And so she wants to bring him. So I'm like, really? I'm going to have to suck this up. I am going to have to no snarky remarks. Her sister, who also is not a fan, because we love her. We want her to be with someone who is cool and values her. So I use this example to qualify me, as I'm going to need some of this advice for myself. and so have you, James, and have you, Cashew Gallery, had an experience where you brought someone home that your family does not like?
I can say that personally, I've dated folks that I would have a tough time introducing to my family for fear of judgment. And I think the beautiful thing about family is you can tell each other the way it is, but also the potentially combustible thing about family is you feel entitled to tell people the way it is. And I think sometimes we need to, use the same sort of grace that we would a stranger with each other, especially around the holidays, which are so stressful. Because I look at this topic and I think about, there's something about the time, especially if you're traveling to see family, very stressful time to travel, get a lot of people in a confined space, as is the case with Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever holidays you choose to celebrate. And so there's all these ingredients for strife. And, it's, I think when we look at the nature of how families operate and how important our significant others are to us, I think navigating that is something worth kind of unpacking. And then also remembering, at the end of the day, you might love your family, but who are you crawling into bed with at the end of the night? It ain't your family. So you got to also respect your partner with that too. So how do we do that? So for me, it's a topic that really came up because a lot of my friends are growing up faster than me. They have, especially when kids are involved, it's even more intense. So if you have a significant other that might ruffle some of your family's feathers in the wrong way, and there's kids involved, oh man, there's a lot of, potential strife that can occur. So a lot of my friends some other family members that are a little further along in their journey with, kids and families have told me about all the stress around dealing with one another and how it has become a serious bone of contention and something that's actually weakened their relationship. And that really kind of broke my heart, because when families come together, it should strengthen relationships, not weaken them, and not be something that maybe contributes towards a breakup. So when I thought about this topic, Dr. Marissa, those are some of the things I was thinking about. Some of my friends and family members that have dealt with this strife.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like that adage, weddings, funerals, and the holidays. They bring out the best and the worst in people.
Absolutely.
It's like a cooker. And I think we've qualified enough that we can sort of move. Let me look at, there's a chat here that looks like a comment. My mom did not like Netter when they first met. Oh, wow. That's interesting. It was so bad that Netter and I eloped, and I didn't have any contact with my family for a decade. Wow, Troy. That's like shocking. But I'm sorry about that, because I know how much you love Netter and how much Netter loves you. And just to give you, James, a little background, when they were on, Troy's been great in the chat for a long time now, and shared his relationship, show by show or chat by chat. And I remember we had one episode on cheating, and can you recover from cheating, or your past experiences. And Troy was very vulnerable and talked about, his past girlfriends who had cheated. And so as a result, with his wife, that was a non-negotiable, sharing with each other the past and saying, basically, if you cheat on me, I'm going to have to kill you. But that level of, this is a non-negotiable. So, wow, you had to choose between your family and your love. And that's a tough one. That is a tough one. And boy, I'm glad you are inferring that they do have contact now and everything is much better. It would be interesting to hear how, was there a trigger event on that? Was it a talk therapy intervention? Was it family system counseling? Or was it just a, tired of fighting? So you can share as much or a little of that as possible. I'm just kind of.
I'm very curious. I'm very curious too. I also love, by the way, that you, Troy, had that conversation at the beginning of the relationship about what happens if a partner cheats. Because a lot of times people are afraid to talk about difficult things because they want to stay in that honeymoon phase. And sometimes I think it's so important to set those expectations and boundaries, because then, there's no ambiguity. It gives you a chance to foster, I think, a deeper sense of compatibility. So I'm just such a firm believer in open communication, from the get-go. So that's awesome.
Yeah, right.
I really love hearing that. And Troy, that's great to hear that everybody gets along great now. That is so. Sometimes time heals all. Sometimes I think family members go, well, that partner's not going anywhere, so I guess we better get over our stuff. And and then if you miss your family, there's loyalty to your family. There's loyalty to your to your partner. And sometimes I think, right, the boundaries need to be drawn and say, look, I love you, but I absolutely need your acceptance on this, even if you don't agree. Sometimes that agree to disagree, I think, is really important, because you're not always going to see eye to eye.
Oh man, James, that was a mic drop, because I think that one of the reasons why we're having such a tough time these days is that we've lost the ability to agree to disagree. I mean,
correct.
We've always had, a donkey and an elephant. We've always had that. And yet now it's like, you can't have the donkey and the elephant in the same room. It's really quite, it's sad. So that's your Happy 88 challenge, is how do we get back to that skill set to disagree, to agree to disagree. and not judge or unfriend or not insult and get violent. It's really, we kind of lost that, and I can't wait that we are going to get back to that. I just remembered something that was also very pertinent to this topic. Are we judging people for the way they have been in the past and not allowing people to change and grow? And the best example of this is my older daughter is dating an African-American guy, and she's half Chinese and half white, Caucasian. For my husband, he looked like Gregory Peck. That's why I picked him. And so she's gorgeous. My kids are gorgeous. And my mom, my Chinese mom, who I've been very forthright about, she did the very best that she could. She grew up also with trauma. And so she just did what her mom did. And as a result, she's also from that older generation that is not diversity friendly at all. And so I thought my daughter didn't talk about her boyfriend, assuming with good reason that my mom would be prejudiced and discriminatory and, have an issue. My father was also that way. After I think I was ageless when I was still single, and he said, I don't care if you don't marry a Chinese guy, which was the first standard before, just as long as they're not Japanese, because he was at Nanjing when the Japanese soldiers would throw up the babies and kill them on the end of the bayonet. And he lost his everything to the Japanese invasion. So he hated Japanese and he could not get over that. And then also African Americans are very traditionally not valued in many Asian cultures. And so I knew that my parents had been that way their whole lives. And so I also assumed my mother would have an issue. And when I finally put the moose on the table and I said to her, because she was asking questions about Chloe's boyfriend, and I said, hey, Mom, I got to be honest, you're not meeting him because you used to say, or actually one of the biggest beatings I ever got in my life was when I was a kid and we would go visit my grandma, my Russian Jewish grandma in Philadelphia. And I went out and played with the Black children, and I got a really bad beating. And I'll never forget that because of her BS belief systems around that. So as a result, I said to her, you're not going to meet him. You're not going to know anything because you have a problem with that race. And she said, no, I don't. And I went, what? And she goes, no, I have no problem with that. And so for me, I had to own that I had trapped my mom in an era and a BS belief system that she wasn't there anymore. And I think that oftentimes there's a solution when we've had negative experiences with our family, that we also are not giving them the grace to change. So we go into what I call MSU University. So if they've had a problem with someone in the past, MSU make shiitake up that is going to be the same way this holiday. So every holiday perpetuates because you're looking for data to support that BS that they are going to have a problem with your insignificant or significant other. And so the Happy 88 tool for me here is, let's readjust and give people the benefit of the doubt and start at ground zero without all of that overlay that may have been true in the past. But let's just see if things might be different now.
Right. And also having that conversation rather than making the assumption of, instead of saying you're not good, I'm not lecturing you, but just to use your example to further the point is, rather than saying, Mom, you're not going to meet her because you are this. Be like, Mom, how do you feel about this? I remember when I was a little girl, this happened, and you were very upset that I was outside. How do you feel about that now? Sometimes people see like a movie or a TV show, something in art or the news that starts to change their perspective. And I think it's important also for us to understand the way that our brains work. And a lot of times we make quick assumptions. We put things into general buckets so that we can have a overview of the world, because we need to feel safe that we understand things. We don't do well with the unknown. So in an attempt to know, we make quick, rash generalizations and put things into big categories and buckets. And if we know that we do that, if we know that our brain works in that way, I think we can be very deliberate in saying, okay, this is something that might not serve me in this potentially volatile situation. Let me use my ability to communicate, ask questions, learn. Let me dig in a little bit before just relying on this old assumption. I think the more that we know about what our brains do, the better we can be at getting along with one another. And I also think that's the trap about people not agreeing with each other, or getting along with people that you don't agree with. We tend to focus in on the thing that is the point of difference. But when you really step back from it, we have so much in common. And just to use like the most obvious example of, the partisanship in our country with, conservative, liberal, when you really strip everything away, most of us want the same things for our families, our loved ones, our kids. Really, it's just a matter of how we get there that we disagree on. But when we look at all the things we have in common, I think it's really hard to sit there and point your finger and be dogmatic about what the other person believes. And so, when we look at family situations in the holidays, and when we have disparate belief systems or values, I think we have to remember all that we have in common, the least of which, the least of which is not blood. Like we have blood in common. So, I think if we can focus on that, I think it gives us a runway to give each other grace, to practice some patience, and to also respectfully agree to disagree in a loving way. You don't have to agree with somebody to enjoy their company.
Absolutely. Great point, James. And if you just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in my studio today, you are tuned in to Take My Advice on Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and of course my YouTube TV channel, where if you free subscribe, you will get an alert every weekday morning that some good news is about to drop. And today is Thursday, so it is my very special fun series as we ramp up into the holidays, where sometimes I get a little bit naughty. It's called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and my new co-host,
James Hawthorn, as you introduced me.
We're so delighted that you're here. Thanks for tuning in the Cashew Gallery. Maria has joined the gallery. We're so glad that you're here. Our topic today is holiday reds, what to do when your family hates your mate. That's the extreme version of it. I want to go back to our earlier topic. We were conversing with Troy, and what happened that after 10 years of not liking what was going on with Troy and his beautiful wife of 30 years, I believe now, Troy, you said it's a big number. But during that decade, my mom reunited with her old high school flame. He reached out to me and said he wanted to foster getting my mom and I together to talk. Wow, that is one heck of a great old high school flame for sure. Yeah, that is. Oh, what a sweet story. That sounds like a Hallmark movie script right there. A true story based on a true story. 31 years, close enough. Hey, I got the 3 right. So that is, that's a wonderful thing. So we are down to our last 10 minutes. I told you it would go fast, didn't I?
You sure did. This has flown by, but what a lovely conversation. I got so impassioned about what I was talking about. I just want to tell the people that are listening at home, I don't know anything. I'm just a 38-year-old dude with some life experience. So take my advice. I'm not using it, or don't take it. Like, really, I don't know anything. I like to be really careful about, being clear when I share stuff that I know to be fact versus when I'm just offering opinions. And I think, speaking of getting along, it can be really helpful, I think, when we let people know, hey, I don't know, but my opinion is, or you could say, hey, I read this, I read a study about it. It's something that I believe to be fact. I think that can help prevent arguments if people know where you're coming from. Because sometimes when we get impassioned, people can feel like you're coming at them. And everything we talk about, I think, on this show, some of it is food for thought. You, on the other hand, are a doctor, and some of the things that I think you share are valuable pearls backed by science. I think it's important for people to disseminate the nature of the information that they're receiving and that they're giving. And I think that can foster more harmonious communication in general, if not especially at the holidays with family and maybe some tenuous relationships.
Yeah. And I'm going to circle back to something you said earlier as a advice for everybody, that they are important no matter what they're doing, or no matter what degrees they have, or no matter what, your insights. The Cashew Gallery loves everything that you said. So I want you to practice what you just gave other people, which is to value your own experience, and that you have every right to share those, as I do. And just to qualify, I am not a clinical psychologist by choice. I'm an organizational psychologist. So I also want to qualify. This is not clinical therapy that I am dispensing. And I want to be careful about that. However, I am a happiness coach. And you, James, are also a coach. Fitness is kind of like bartending. I'm sure that you hear from your clients all the ways in which the human dynamic, I had this new term come down this morning called the humankind condition. So it's not the human condition that I'm looking for right now, but highlighting the humankind condition. So in everything that we're saying in this program, on this platform, in life, everybody has had experiences that through the pain come out the power to be able to help someone else. And I don't have the answer for everybody, but I do have some things that can help some people who've had similar experiences. I'm one of the 7 out of 10 who's had childhood trauma. Because of that, I get that kind of feeling. I get that kind of shame. I get that kind of blame. So I can speak to that. I believe in life, everybody goes through those kinds of hardships. One reason is so that we are able to go through it, come out, pop up the other side, and help someone else with some tools that will help alleviate that pain. So, and plus, I'm not an MD, just so you know, I'm a PhD. So MD, medical doctor, Wednesdays, Dr. Tiffany Tate, my co-host. I'm a PhD, which stands for piled higher and deeper. So just to qualify.
I love that. I think that's great. And we all have this valuable experience to share, and it's all food for thought. And I thank you. I appreciate that. Compliment.
You just got a compliment there.
Something that I didn't get a chance to talk about it when it comes to the holidays and family, but something I just wanted to toss out there and see your thoughts on it, Dr. Marissa, is this idea that if an argument or disagreement arises over who your partner is that you're bringing to the holiday table, or what they do or what they believe, whatever the point of contention is, sometimes when you're having a discussion with your family about your mate, or you're discussing something with your mate about your family, this idea that you don't have to win. Sometimes things can remain unresolved. You don't always have to agree. And rather than trying to win the point, maybe you can leave it unresolved and just say, well, I love them and I don't want to push that button out of grace, kindness. We can talk about it, but I don't have to win this. And sometimes if there's a trait, right, that really bothers your family about your mate, or the other way around, this idea of maybe being amused and just stepping back and saying, well, I don't have to like it, but boy, that sure is funny. If I watched this on TV, I would think it was funny if it wasn't happening to me. So sometimes taking that step back and just being like, boy, people are silly, and just laughing at the quirks and things that people do. Even if you find them irritating, remove yourself from that and just take a step back and just go, isn't this person fascinating? And I think that could be a really healthy way to navigate the stress and the combustible nature of a lot of people together in a confined space after stressful travel during the holidays, in an environment where people feel entitled to tell them whatever's on their mind because they're family. So if you could just remember to step back and just be amused by the silliness of it all, I think that can, help us be kinder to one another when we disagree.
It's called that 88,000 foot look is my version of that, is, pulling yourself up and just being able to, the first thing is just breathe. Just breathe. That would be my first point of reaction. Someone says something, you're triggered, smile as you're breathing in through the nose. Light up your smile, and then in the exhale, you say, that's interesting. That's it. Breathe in. That's interesting. And then if you're really fuming, I'm sorry, I need to go to the bathroom. And that's a way to give yourself time to say, INTBOAD. It's not that big of a deal, right? This is once a year. Maybe every other year. I can do this. It's 2 weeks out of all my life. I can be kind. I can be the kind, loving person at the core of who I am. We are all loving and kind. We may have anger that's gotten infected, resentment, depression, all of that that's on the surface, but we can breathe through that and just allow people the latitude to be the Richards that they are. Sorry,
the dipwads, as you called it, the dipwads.
I'm not quite sure if that is on my FCC list of $20,000 fines.
Dipwad, I think you're okay with that one. That's the kind of East Coast language my father would use while driving. I learned some very colorful non-curse curse words as a child until my dad learned to just chill out and relax. He told me and this is maybe advice for all of us to not take ourselves too seriously.
I'm going to have to stop you because we're going to have 1 minute. So before you start into that story and I have to interrupt you mid-story, we'll save that story for next Thursday. I'm so delighted that you were all able to join us today. This has been Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and my new wonderful co-host,
James Hawthorn. Thank you for having me, Dr. Marissa. This has been a blast.
We want to just welcome Orville Nation is streaming from Portugal. And let's see. Who are kidding? It's always a competition, James. Yeah, I say you cannot have a fight if you don't pick up a rope. So if someone's throwing out a tug of war, you don't have to pick it up. But we're so delighted that you were here today. Please tune in. Tomorrow is Tempting Conversations with Dr. Marissa Carter. We do have a special guest with her. So make sure I'll see you here tomorrow morning. James, this is what I do at the end of every show. It's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Thank you so much, James. This was awesome. Now go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow.
To all of you as well. Thank you.